presentation is trade unions and labor relations in Zambia. So the key words, we have labor relations. It's basically interaction between employees and employer and government. That's what labor relations are, because the government sets the rules. So labor relations, interaction between the employees and employer and government. Trade unions are basically employee representatives. Unionized employee is basically an employee who is a member of a union. Not all employees are members of the union. Some are, some are not. So employees can choose to belong to a union or not to belong to a union. It's up to them. Collective bargaining is basically negotiations. You negotiate, or the employees negotiate with the employer for conditions of service, better conditions of service, I would say. Industrial and Labor Relations Act. So Act means it's a law signed by the president. Cap 269. This is the main law for establishment of unions in Zambia. Cap 269 or Chapter 269 of the laws of Zambia. Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019. This is also a main law that governs our employment in Zambia. So leave days, payment of allowances, payment of benefits, payment of what, everything is prescribed in Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019. Then Industrial Relations Court, I mentioned. This is the court that handles labor disputes, or let me say labor dispute cases, because the High Court has got a specific court, which is the Industrial Relations Court, which is a division of the High Court. So that one is a specialized division of the High Court that handles only labor-related matters. What are labor matters? Labor matters refer to issues arising in the employment relationship between workers and employers, including wages and salaries, working hours, occupational health, disciplinary procedures, grievance handling, retrenchment, and collective bargaining. So in Zambia, all labor matters are controlled or regulated by government by way of employment laws. Okay, those are the two main ones. The employment laws, that's the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019, as well as the Cap 269, which defines the unions and when the unions can, when employees can be represented by a union. And most of these issues are actually covered by this. So let us be familiar also with what this law says when we are dealing with our subordinates or fellow employees. Let us be familiar with this. The composition of labor relations in Zambia. Zambia has got what is called the tripartite. Tripartite simply means three. Who are those three? The government, employers, trade unions. So every time these labor matters are being discussed, if the government is discussing these labor matters, they will consult the employers, they will consult the trade unions. Okay, so but you can ask, but we've never been called as NFCA to go and discuss labor matters. Yes, we have. That's why we need to belong to the Zambia Federation of Employers. So there's a federation, an association of employers where each company should belong to, ZFE, Zambia Federation of Employers. So when they're discussing changes to, for example, when this is 2019, meaning there was a law before 2019. This one only came into being in 2019. It repealed another employment act. So government is going to call this one employer associations. So we need to belong to the federation so that when these matters are being discussed, they will not call an individual company, but they will call this federation. So tripartite simply means it's Zambia's three-part labor relation framework. The labor relations framework, its purpose is to promote industrial harmony, ensure fair labor practices, and facilitate dispute resolution. You may want to ask, what do the unions do? Why do they exist? The law, Cap 269, says they are going to be responsible for negotiating on behalf of the employees who are their members. They will be negotiating for wages and employment conditions, dispute resolution and grievance procedure, disciplinary hearings. There are a lot of issues under dispute resolution. If, for example, workers are not happy with certain conditions or certain something, they can go to their union and express their displeasure or their concern, and under this, that matter will be resolved. Also, advocacy and policy engagement. So participate in the tripartite consultative labor council. So this council, the three-part council, which is government, employers, and unions, they are the ones that now sit down to agree on a way forward if they want to change something on this act that governs employment. Then there will be this council exists, or they participate in that council. Also, they train workers on rights and workplace safety, and also they assist their members with NAPSA and welfare matters. So welfare matters, they vary. Welfare matters, it depends on what the union wants to do for their members. Brief history. How did the unions start in Zambia? 1935 to 1940, the miners in Zambia, the African miners in Zambia, became unhappy and agitated with the employers. So between 1935 and 1940, they went on strike. They were not represented, but they just stopped working. They went on strike. So later, it was determined that maybe they should have a union. So 1949, the African Miners Workers Union was formed. And then in 1965, there's what is called the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. So the Congress of Trade Unions is simply a group of other unions, coming together. The way we had the Federation of Employers, NFCA belongs to the Federation of Employers. Unions belong to, some of them now belong to this Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. So it's a collection of unions. So in 1965, that Congress was formed. And then 1971, the Industrial Relations Act was enacted, and 1990, Revised Industrial Relations Act. So the CAP 269. So of course, there are some other amendments that are not here, but we are talking about the history of labor unionism in Zambia. So these are the major parts of history. Amendments, they are there. There was one in 2008. There was another one in 2018, but they are not here. So this basically is just the history. Now, here's the thing. When can a trade union register or recruit members at a company? Supposing you've got a company, and then a union says, I want to bring a union to your company. What's going to happen? What do you do? All right. So under the current law, a company with a minimum number of 25 employees should, by law, register with the Ministry of Labor to say, I have got at least 25 people. If you don't do that, penalties may come. So it's by law. It says within 3 months of formation of the company, you should register with the Ministry of Labor. That's number one. So currently, a union can have, actually here can have only one member at a company. Here at NFCA, we have got 5 unions. I know most of us, we know this one. MUZ, MUZ, and New Mau. But we've got 3 other unions here at NFCA. So total, we have got 5. Collective bargaining, I mentioned what collective bargaining is. Basically, collective bargaining is negotiations for wages, allowances, and working conditions. So that is collective bargaining. For example, under here, we as a company have agreed that the employees who are working 12-hour shift should get Nshima. The unions and the company, they will negotiate for this. The process or the procedure is what is being described at the bottom there, how the negotiations take place. The unions, they issue bargaining notice, the employer and union negotiate in good faith, the collective agreement is signed, and the agreement is filed with the Labor Commissioner in Lusaka. Under the law, the union with the majority membership leads the collective bargaining. Okay, that is important. So if I go back to this, when management is negotiating with the unions, it's not all these unions who bring demands. Me, I want so much money. Me, I want this. Me, I want that. It's the union with the largest membership at a particular company that leads the negotiation. So all the other unions, when it comes to collective bargaining, will have to be subordinate, or we have to respect the largest union. So in our case, all these will be under MUZ. So MUZ chairs the negotiations, the collective bargaining, meaning once those negotiations are done, none of these other unions will come back to say, no, let's continue, we want better conditions of service, we want so much more. It's just one negotiation per year. The main union, or the union with the largest membership, leads. Thank you.